Let's go to Donald Trump yesterday, talking about Hillary Clinton's push for spending on migrants coming to America. Watch this.
Hillary also wants to spend hundreds of billions of dollars to settle Middle Eastern refugees in the United States, on top of the current record level of immigration that we already have. For the amount of money Hillary Clinton would like to spend on refugees, we could rebuild every inner city in America.
With us now, the author of Con Job, How Democrats Gave Us Crime, Sanctuary Cities, Abortion, Profiteering, and Racial Division. That's a mouthful, but that's the name of the book, Con Job. And here's the author, Crystal Wright, frequent guest on the program. Crystal, welcome back. Good to see you again.
Thanks, Stuart. Great to see you.
Now then, Donald Trump says, instead of spending all that money on migrants, we could spend it on the inner cities. How do you feel about that? Because you've often railed against the idea that inner cities need a vast new amount of money from the federal government. What do you say?
Well, I haven't railed against good policies to help inner cities. And isn't this the third rail of Democrats? Hillary Clinton won the nomination over Bernie Sanders largely due to black voters in the inner cities who vote Democrats. And Donald Trump is exactly right. She's willing to sacrifice the well-being of her black constituents who are, let's face it, Stuart, they are living in war zones in Baltimore and Chicago. And she wants to spend billions of dollars to bring in Syrian refugees, some of whom are would-be terrorists, over helping black Americans. So I'm not willing to pour more money, into these cities, for corrupt politicians, for Democrat politicians. But
Crystal,
Hillary Clinton, it's
Crystal, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt you, but I've just got breaking news. It's from the Supreme Court, and it's about President Obama's immigration plan. What do we have?
They blocked it. So effectively, the Supreme Court was split 4-4. That means it keeps in place a lower court ruling that blocks the president's immigration plan.
Yes.
Basically, the Texas and 25 other states have brought the case saying he exceeded his powers.
Okay, Crystal, are you still there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I am.
You heard
still
that?
Here.
The Supreme Court says, no, you can't do that, President Obama. You can't. I think it was like 4 million, even 5 million people coming in by executive action. The Supreme Court says, no, you can't do it.
Because it's unconstitutional, because Congress has to vote on immigration. I write about this in Con Job, how President Obama's executive order to grant amnesty to illegals pouring in our inner cities, like Donald Trump has said, harms who? Black constituents, black voters who are struggling with double-digit unemployment. Bravo, Supreme Court. This is going to be a devastating election issue for Hillary Clinton, who has told black voters over and over again, Stuart, Black Lives Matter. Oh yeah, but I support mass illegal immigration. This is a winner for Donald Trump. I hope he will seize it like he did in that was his most disciplined speech we saw. And like others have said on your program, Stuart, Donald Trump can win the black vote if he keeps talking about these failed policies, and how Hillary Clinton basically makes sacrificial lambs of blacks. Over and over again, we see Democrats have done this for 50-plus years. When are we going to wake up?
Okay, hold on a second.
People going to wake
Crystal,
up?
hold on a second. I've got a little bit more to add to the Supreme Court's decision here, Liz.
So it was a 4-4 split, meaning that's the ruling. So it basically effectively keeps in place a lower court ruling that blocked the president's plan. And his plan was tailored to let about 4 million people, as you point out, to be here illegally. And they've been here since 2010. They have no criminal record. They have children who are U.S. citizens.
Hold on a second. I've got another verdict. This is a court verdict. This is nothing to do with the Supreme Court. This is the Freddie Gray case. The man charged with the most serious charges in the Freddie Gray case has been found. Is this correct? Is it not guilty? That is correct. He has been found not guilty. Not guilty of second-degree depraved murder. I believe the gentleman charged was the one who drove the van with Freddie Gray in the back. This was the so-called rough ride. That man who drove that vehicle has been found not guilty. Crystal Wright, you're still there, I believe?
Yeah, Stuart, again, I go into detail about this in my book, Con Job. Freddie Gray was high. And many of the witnesses, other folks that were in the van with Freddie Gray that the police department had caught that day, said that he was high and he was trying to get out of the seatbelt. And we all know that police are protected. This was a classic example of the prosecutor in Baltimore rushing to placate Black Lives Matter, not looking at the facts. And you know what? I hope we don't have race riots, because the rules are always different when police officers are so-called charged with killing black people. But right now you have in Chicago over the Memorial Day weekend, you had 60 plus people gunned down over a 3-day weekend of bloody carnage.
Crystal,
and
hold on a
mostly
second.
black people.
I know
and
you've
nobody
written-
was outraged by that.
You've written extensively about the Freddie Gray
Yes,
case.
I have.
Tell me what President Obama and the Attorney General came in and said about that case. I think they had something to say about it, and I think
Yes.
they were not on the side of the police officers. Am I
Well,
accurate?
we know that Eric Holder went to Baltimore. Obama gave comments about Freddie Gray when he was on vacation, I believe, just like he did in Trayvon Martin's case, just like he did with Michael Brown. I have a whole chapter in the book on racial division, and it talks about how we saw over and over again President Obama used the White House for these black young men that were killed, but we never saw the president stand up for Kate Steinle, for Jamil Shaw. These are young Americans killed by illegal immigrants. We never saw the president use his bully pulpit for that. But he influenced, I think it was because of President Barack Obama and Eric Holder's comment in Baltimore, why you had an aggressive prosecutor come in and file charges against these police officers that were never going to stand. It's all about race with these guys.
We're getting some very interesting verdicts from courts, the Supreme Court and that court there in Baltimore, about some very serious cases here. I'm going to recap a couple of things. Earlier this morning, by earlier I mean about 20 minutes ago, the Supreme Court allowed race to be used in determining admissions to colleges. In other words, they upheld affirmative action in the case of race being used in college admissions. They affirmed that. They said, that's okay. Later, literally 10 minutes ago, the Supreme Court said the Supreme Court will not revive President Obama's plan to shield illegal immigrants from deportation. That's a very accurate statement.
Yes,
right,
it is. It
Liz?
was brought by Texas and 25 other states, saying essentially the president exceeded his powers under the Constitution in pushing for this.
Yes. The president did not want several million people
4 million
deported.
estimated. Yeah.
4 million. Don't go after them. They can stay. Essentially, he was saying they can stay. And he said that by executive action. The Supreme Court now says, no, you can't do that, Mr.
The
President.
argument for the administration was many of these illegals have children who are now U.S. citizens, so
Okay.
it's a tough case.
Crystal Wright, I've got 20 seconds left, and I'll give you the last word. Where are you going?
Well, this is a great day for Donald Trump. I hope we see him seize the moment and tell black Americans, Democrats do not have your interests at heart. And look at what happened today. The Freddie Gray case, the Supreme Court case on affirmative action, and he needs to spell it out. He needs to make the case to black Americans why they need to vote for him.
All right, Crystal Wright, you've a very appropriate appearance today. Thank you
Yes,
very
it
much
is.
indeed. Good timing
Thank
there.
you.
Got that. Before we go on to another subject, let me bring you up to date with the markets today.